Question 2. Square root of 2 times square root of 15. If you just look at square root of 2 and try to figure out what square root of 2 is, we can't do much about this, right? We can't do much about square root of 2 because 2 is not a perfect square. Likewise, we cannot do much about square root of 15 because 15 is not a perfect square. We cannot find a number that multiplies itself and that will give you 15. So what can we do in this case that when we have square root of 2 times square root of 15? So I will show you something. I will show you guys an example first before I do question 2. Okay, so let me cover this up for a minute. So an example first. So let me do something that we actually know how to do it. So let me give you an example. Let me do square root of 16 times, let me write the multiplication sign, times square root of 9. I choose these two numbers because we know square root of 16. This square root of 16 is equal to 4. Because 4 times 4 gives you 16. And then we're looking for the positive number only. We are not looking at because square root of 16, we're only looking at a positive number that will multiply itself twice and give you 16. Okay, and square root of 9. What times 4 will be equal to 9? And they have to be the same number and positive. 3 times 3 is equal to 9. So this is equal to 3. And of course, after we've done the square root, then 4 times 3 is equal to 12. And that's it. So this is how you're doing normally. You will need to do square roots before the multiplication. Okay, that's the order of operation. We do the square root before the multiplication. But what if I want to do the multiplication first? Is that okay? Let's take a look. If I have square root of 16 times square root of 9. So same question. Well, if I want to do 16 times 9. If I want to do that first, and then take the square root later on. Let's see if we can get the same answer or not. So 16 times 9, that will produce you 144. But we haven't done the square root yet. So let me have the square root for the square root. Let me have the square root for the number 144. And again, 144, square root of that, we have to think about what times itself will give you 144. And then we are looking for the positive number only. And that's 12. 12 times 12 produces you of 144. And as you can see that we actually end up with the same answer. Right? We actually end up with the same answer. So the idea is that when you have multiplication for square root of when you have multiplication for two square root numbers, you can either do the square root first, or you can do the numbers inside. You can multiply the numbers inside first. So that's one of the things that we can do with the square root. Let me give you guys a note. So if I have two square root numbers, let me write it as square root of A multiply square root of B. We can actually do this by saying square root, and we want to do the A times B first inside. However, when you have a square root of a number, we only can take a positive number inside of the square root, right? And maybe 0, that will work as well. So we have to make sure that this formula only works if A, B are not negatives, aren't negative. Okay. This rule only works if A and B are not negative numbers. Okay, so let me just continue with this a little bit. Okay, because I want to just talk a little bit more about square root. What happens if I want to add? So if we want to do this, square root of 16 plus square root of 9. So again, normally you will do square roots first. That's the order of operation. Square root of 16 gives you 4 plus, bring down plus, square root of 9 is equal to 3. And when you add these two numbers, 4 plus 3, you get 7. Is this okay to do it this way? When I have square root of 16 plus square root of 9. Is it okay that I do 16 plus 9 first? Okay, so let me have the square root on the outside too. If I want to do 16 plus 9, I get 25. But I haven't done the square root yet. So let me have the square root for the 25. But 5 times 5 is equal to 25, so square root of 25 is equal to 5. So as you can see that 5 and 7 are not the same, right? 5 and 7 are not the same. So you cannot change the order of the operation if you're adding two square root of numbers. So let me write down warning. So if you have two square root of numbers, square root of a and b, but if you're adding them, it's not okay to say to add the numbers inside first and then take the square root. This is incorrect. This is incorrect. And I just show you an example right here. 5 and 7 are not the same. So if you do this question in a different order, you will not end up with the same result. The idea for this works the same as when you have subtraction. Square root of a minus square root of b. We cannot just do a minus b and then take the square root. This is also incorrect. This is also incorrect. Okay? So we can change the order of operation. We can do the numbers inside first if you have a multiplication, and also if you have division. If you have square root of a, divide by square root of b. We can actually do a divided by b first, and then take the square root, as long as a and b are not negatives. So that's the ideas of our square roots. Okay, what we can do with square root. So with this idea here, question number 2 is actually just one step. Square root of 2 times square root of 15. Because it's a multiplication, we can use this rule right here. So we can do 2 times 15 inside. So with this little space, let me do question 2. So square root of 2 times square root of 15. This is the same as saying I want to do 2 times 15 first, and then take the square root of that. And then 2 times 15, which is 30. So this is equal to 30, but I still have the square root on the outside. Right? So question number 2, the answer is C, square root of 30.